Last Saturday evening during my granddaughter Emma's 23rd birthday celebration at my son David's house. My 25-year-old grandson Tyler looked me straight in the eye in front of the entire extended family and told me that I was an embarrassing old man who ruins every family gathering with my outdated stories and inappropriate comments that make everyone uncomfortable, and that he wished I would just stay home instead of showing up to family events where my presence creates awkward situations and dampens the mood for younger family members who want to enjoy modern celebrations without having to deal with elderly relatives who don't understand contemporary social dynamics. What Tyler didn't know as he delivered his cruel and public humiliation about my supposedly embarrassing behavior and my negative impact on family gatherings was that I had been secretly paying all of his college tuition, student loan payments, credit card debts, and living expenses for the past 7 years through anonymous financial arrangements that had allowed him to graduate debt-free from an expensive private university and maintain his comfortable lifestyle without any awareness that his financial freedom was entirely dependent on his grandfather's generous and ongoing support. I'm Robert Mitchell. I'm 69 years old, and this is the story of how my ungrateful grandson's shocking public disrespect and his cruel demand that I stop attending family gatherings led to the most devastating financial revelation that would teach him that humiliating elderly relatives who have sacrificed to support your success can have catastrophic consequences for your comfortable lifestyle and your future financial security. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. The foundation of this family crisis begins 7 years ago when Tyler started his freshman year at Riverside University, an expensive private college with annual tuition costs exceeding $50,000 that his parents David and Rebecca could not afford on their combined middle-class incomes from David's position as a high school principal and Rebecca's work as a dental hygienist, creating a financial crisis that threatened Tyler's educational dreams and his family's long-term economic stability. Tyler's acceptance to Riverside University had been a source of tremendous family pride and excitement, as he had earned excellent grades throughout high school and had demonstrated leadership abilities and academic potential that suggested he could succeed at a competitive institution and build a successful career that would justify the substantial investment required for his elite education and professional development. The financial reality of Tyler's college expenses created immediate stress for David and Rebecca, who had saved modestly for their children's education, but had not anticipated the full costs of private university attendance, including tuition, room and board, textbooks, and living expenses that totaled over $60,000 annually, and would require either massive student loans or family financial sacrifices that could compromise their own retirement security. My decision to intervene financially in Tyler's education was motivated by my desire to ensure that my grandson could pursue his educational goals without burdening his parents with debt that would affect their financial stability for decades, while also providing Tyler with the opportunity to focus on his studies rather than working multiple jobs or accumulating student loan obligations that could limit his post-graduation career choices and life opportunities. The financial support system I established for Tyler was designed to be completely anonymous and untraceable to me personally, using a combination of educational foundation grants, scholarship programs, and trust fund distributions that appeared to come from various institutional sources rather than from his grandfather's personal wealth and retirement savings that I had accumulated through decades of careful planning and successful business investments. My background as a retired electronics engineer who had worked for 43 years at various technology companies, had provided me with substantial retirement savings and investment income that allowed me to support Tyler's education without compromising my own financial security. Though the annual payments represented a significant portion of my discretionary income that required careful budgeting and some lifestyle adjustments to maintain over multiple years. The anonymous financial support included not only Tyler's direct educational expenses, but also his living costs, textbook purchases, technology needs, and even recreational activities that allowed him to fully participate in college social life and professional development opportunities without the financial stress that affected many of his classmates who were working part-time jobs or accumulating substantial debt to fund their education. Tyler's college experience was enhanced by his financial freedom, which allowed him to participate in unpaid internships, study abroad programs, and extracurricular activities that provided valuable career preparation and personal development opportunities that would have been impossible if he had been required to work constantly to pay for his education and living expenses like many students from less financially advantaged backgrounds. The success of my anonymous support system was evident in Tyler's academic achievement and his social development during college, as he maintained excellent grades while developing leadership skills and professional networks that positioned him well for post-graduation career opportunities, though he remained completely unaware that his educational and social advantages were funded by his grandfather's personal sacrifices and financial planning. My relationship with Tyler during his college years was maintained through regular family gatherings and holiday celebrations, where I enjoyed hearing about his academic progress and his social experiences. Though our conversations were often brief and focused on his achievements, rather than deeper discussions about values, family history, or the financial realities that had enabled his comfortable educational experience. Tyler's attitude toward me during his college years was generally polite but distant, with limited interest in my life experiences or perspectives, and occasional expressions of impatience with my stories about earlier generations and different approaches to education and career development that he seemed to consider irrelevant to his contemporary experiences and modern career planning. The generational gap between Tyler and me became more apparent as he progressed through college and developed confidence in his academic abilities and social skills, leading to increasingly obvious differences in our perspectives about family relationships, respect for elders, and the value of traditional wisdom and experience in guiding younger family members through life challenges and career decisions. Tyler's post-graduation period included his successful entry into a competitive marketing position at a prestigious advertising agency, where his debt-free status allowed him to accept a lower starting salary in exchange for valuable experience and career development opportunities that many of his classmates couldn't afford to pursue because of their student loan obligations and immediate financial pressures. The continuation of my financial support during Tyler's early career years included assistance with his apartment security deposit, professional wardrobe purchases, and living expenses that allowed him to establish himself in an expensive city and build his professional reputation without the financial stress that typically affects recent college graduates who are managing substantial debt payments while trying to build their careers. Tyler's lifestyle during his early career years was comfortable and social, with regular dining out, entertainment expenses, and travel opportunities that were funded through my continued anonymous support that he believed was residual scholarship money and family trust distributions that would eventually end, but were currently providing him with financial flexibility and lifestyle advantages. My observation of Tyler's spending patterns and lifestyle choices revealed that he had developed expensive tastes and high expectations for his standard of living that were completely dependent on the financial support he was receiving, but didn't recognize as coming from my personal sacrifices and careful financial management of my retirement resources and discretionary income. The financial support I provided to Tyler during his early career years totaled over $40,000 annually when combined with his college expenses, representing a substantial ongoing commitment that required me to live more modestly and forgo personal expenses and activities that I might have enjoyed during my retirement years in order to ensure his continued financial freedom and career development. Tyler's appreciation for his financial advantages was limited and focused on his belief that his comfortable situation was the result of his academic merit and family financial planning, rather than the ongoing personal sacrifices of an elderly relative who was choosing to prioritize his grandson's success over his own retirement comfort and financial security. The family dynamics during Tyler's college and early career years included regular gatherings where I enjoyed celebrating his achievements and hearing about his professional progress. Though I noticed his increasing impatience with family traditions and his growing tendency to focus conversations on his own experiences rather than showing interest in other family members' lives and perspectives. Tyler's behavior at family gatherings gradually shifted from polite engagement to obvious boredom and occasional expressions of frustration, with what he characterized as repetitive stories and outdated perspectives that didn't contribute meaningfully to conversations about contemporary issues and modern career challenges that he considered more relevant and important than family history and traditional values. My attempts to share stories about my own career experiences and life lessons were increasingly met with Tyler's polite but obvious disinterest, and his body language and responses suggested that he viewed my contributions to family conversations as interruptions rather than valuable insights that might provide useful guidance or interesting perspectives on life and career development. The growing disrespect in Tyler's attitude toward me was subtle but persistent, with eye-rolling, side conversations during my stories, and comments to other family members that suggested he found my presence and participation in family discussions tedious and unnecessary, though he maintained basic politeness that prevented direct confrontation about his changing attitude and decreasing respect. Tyler's relationship with his parents David and Rebecca remained positive and appreciative, as they had supported his education within their financial means and continued to provide emotional support and guidance during his transition to independent adult life, though they were unaware of the extent of financial assistance that was enabling his comfortable lifestyle and career flexibility. The contrast between Tyler's respectful treatment of his parents and his increasing dismissiveness toward me was noticeable to other family members, though most attributed the difference to generational gaps and normal changes in relationships, as young adults develop their own identities and priorities that naturally shift away from extended family connections toward peer relationships and career advancement. My decision to continue providing financial support despite Tyler's changing attitude was based on my commitment to his long-term success, and my hope that his disrespectful behavior was temporary and related to his youth and inexperience, rather than fundamental character flaws that would persist as he matured and gained perspective about family relationships and the contributions of older relatives. The financial burden of supporting Tyler's lifestyle continued to increase as his career progressed and his expectations for his standard of living expanded, requiring me to make additional personal sacrifices and adjust my own retirement plans to accommodate the ongoing expenses that were maintaining his financial freedom and professional opportunities without his knowledge or appreciation. Tyler's assumption that his financial advantages were permanent and reliable led to lifestyle choices and spending patterns that were completely dependent on continued support that he didn't recognize as coming from my personal resources, creating a situation where his comfortable existence was built on a foundation that he was simultaneously undermining through his disrespectful treatment of the person, providing his financial security. The crisis point in our relationship was reached 6 months ago when Tyler's behavior at family gatherings became openly dismissive and rude, with obvious impatience during my conversations and comments to other family members that suggested he found my presence burdensome, and my contributions to family discussions embarrassing and inappropriate for modern social settings. Tyler's complaints about my behavior included criticisms of my stories about earlier generations and different historical periods, my perspectives on contemporary issues that he considered outdated and irrelevant, and my approaches to conversation and social interaction that he believed were inappropriate for family gatherings that should focus on current events and contemporary family members' achievements rather than historical perspectives and traditional values. The family tension created by Tyler's increasingly disrespectful attitude was noticed by other relatives, particularly his sister Emma and his younger cousins, who were uncomfortable with his treatment of me and concerned about the impact of his behavior on family unity and the example he was setting for younger family members about appropriate respect for elderly relatives and family traditions. My attempts to address Tyler's behavior through private conversations with his parents were met with their acknowledgement of the problem and their promises to discuss respect and family values with him, though their efforts appeared to have little impact on his attitude and behavior during subsequent family gatherings and social events. The devastating public humiliation occurred last Saturday evening during Emma's birthday celebration, when Tyler's frustration with my participation in family conversation reached a breaking point, and he delivered his cruel assessment of my presence and his demand that I stop attending family gatherings where my supposedly embarrassing behavior was ruining events for younger family members. Tyler's public statement that I was an embarrassing old man who ruins every family gathering was delivered in front of parents, siblings, cousins, and family friends, who were shocked by his disrespectful language and his cruel dismissal of my value as a family member, and his grandfather who had always been loving and supportive of his success and achievements. The immediate family reaction to Tyler's outburst was horror and disappointment, with his parents David and Rebecca expressing immediate disapproval of his disrespectful language and his inappropriate behavior toward me, while other family members showed obvious discomfort and concern about the family crisis that had been created by his public humiliation and cruel demands. Tyler's defiance of his parents' criticism and his insistence that his assessment of my embarrassing behavior was accurate and justified revealed the depth of his disrespect and his complete lack of appreciation for family relationships and the contributions of older relatives who had supported and loved him throughout his life, despite his growing arrogance and selfishness. My response to Tyler's public humiliation was a calm request for a private conversation that would allow me to share some important information about his financial situation that might help him understand the broader context of our family relationships and the potential consequences of his disrespectful treatment of relatives who had contributed significantly to his success and comfortable lifestyle. Tyler's confident agreement to a private conversation revealed his belief that he held moral authority in our relationship and that any discussion would only confirm his right to criticize my behavior and establish boundaries about my participation in family events, without considering my feelings or my contributions to his life and success. The private conversation took place in David's home office after other family members had moved to different areas of the house to allow us privacy. Though the tension from the public confrontation was obvious, and the family was clearly concerned about the outcome of our discussion and its impact on future family relationships and gatherings. Tyler's opening statements in our private conversation included repetitions of his belief that my behavior was embarrassing and inappropriate for modern family gatherings, with detailed criticisms of my conversational style and my stories that he characterized as boring and irrelevant to contemporary family discussions and social dynamics that should focus on current achievements and future plans rather than historical perspectives. My response to Tyler's criticisms was the presentation of comprehensive financial documentation that revealed the full extent of my anonymous support for his education and lifestyle over the past 7 years, including detailed records of tuition payments, living expense support, debt payments, and ongoing financial assistance that had totaled over $350,000 in direct financial support. Tyler's reaction to learning about the comprehensive financial support I had provided was immediate shock and disbelief, followed by growing horror as he realized that his entire comfortable lifestyle and debt-free existence were completely dependent on the continued generosity of the same grandfather, whom he had just publicly humiliated and dismissed as an embarrassing burden on family gatherings. The documentation I presented included bank records, payment confirmations, scholarship foundation distributions that I had funded, and trust account statements that demonstrated how I had structured his financial support to appear anonymous, while actually representing substantial personal sacrifices from my retirement income and savings that had been redirected to ensure his success and comfort. Tyler's attempts to process the revelation about my financial support were accompanied by desperate calculations about the implications for his lifestyle and his ability to maintain his current standard of living without continued assistance, as he realized that his comfortable apartment, his social activities, and his financial freedom were all dependent on support that he had just jeopardized through his disrespectful behavior. The conversation continued with my explanation of how I had prioritized his education and success over my own retirement comfort and activities, including the personal sacrifices I had made to ensure that he could pursue his goals without financial stress or debt obligations that would limit his career choices and life opportunities. Tyler's growing panic about his financial vulnerability was evident as he realized that his lifestyle and his ability to maintain his current living situation were completely dependent on my continued willingness to provide support that his public humiliation and cruel demands had potentially jeopardized through his demonstration of ingratitude and lack of respect for family relationships. My explanation of the financial support also included information about my original plans for Tyler's inheritance and my hopes that my investment in his education and early career would be appreciated and would strengthen our family relationship, rather than being taken for granted while he developed increasingly disrespectful attitudes toward me as his benefactor and grandfather. The revelation about my financial support also included discussion of Tyler's future financial independence and the timeline I had planned for gradually reducing his financial assistance as his career progressed and his income increased, though his disrespectful behavior had raised serious questions about his character and his worthiness to receive continued support and eventual inheritance consideration. Tyler's desperate attempts to apologize and retract his public humiliation were immediate and frantic, with promises to change his behavior and expressions of regret that were clearly motivated by his newfound awareness of his financial vulnerability, rather than genuine remorse for his disrespectful treatment of me or his understanding of the sacrifices I had made for his success. The apology attempts included detailed explanations of stress and pressure that Tyler claimed had influenced his behavior, along with requests for forgiveness and assurances that he would immediately demonstrate appreciation and respect for me in all future family interactions and public settings where his previous behavior had been inappropriate and hurtful. My response to Tyler's panic and his desperate apologies was measured and focused on the need for genuine behavioral change and authentic appreciation, rather than temporary adjustments motivated by fear of financial consequences, with clear expectations that any improvement in his treatment of me would need to be sustained and sincere rather than performative and self-serving. The conversation concluded with my statement that Tyler's financial support would continue for a limited transition period to allow him to adjust his lifestyle and develop financial independence, but that his awareness of my sacrifices would serve as a permanent reminder that disrespecting elderly family members who have supported your success can have serious consequences for continued family support and future inheritance prospects. Tyler's return to the family gathering was subdued and apologetic, with immediate changes in his behavior and attitude toward me that were obvious to all family members, though the sincerity of his transformation remained questionable given his clear motivation to protect his financial security rather than genuine recognition of his inappropriate behavior and lack of gratitude. The family's reaction to Tyler's obvious behavioral change was curiosity and relief, with questions about our private conversation that had produced such dramatic shifts in his attitude, though I maintained privacy about the specific details while emphasizing the importance of respect for elderly family members and appreciation for family support and sacrifices. David and Rebecca's relief about the apparent resolution of the family conflict was evident, though they remained concerned about the underlying issues that had created Tyler's disrespectful behavior and their own failure to instill appropriate values about family relationships and respect for elders who had contributed significantly to family well-being and success. The immediate aftermath of the financial revelation included Tyler's overcorrection toward excessive gratitude and deference that was almost as uncomfortable as his previous disrespect, creating an artificial family dynamic that would require time and genuine effort to develop into authentic appreciation and appropriate family relationships based on mutual respect rather than financial dependency. Tyler's behavior during subsequent family gatherings showed continued awareness of his vulnerable position, with obvious efforts to demonstrate appreciation and respect that contrasted sharply with his previous attitude, though the authenticity of these changes would need to be evaluated over time through consistent behavior and genuine character development. The impact on younger family members was significant and educational, as they witnessed the consequences of disrespectful behavior toward elderly relatives and learned important lessons about gratitude, appreciation, and the complex financial relationships that often exist within families where older members make sacrifices to support younger generations' success and opportunities. Tyler's gradual understanding of the full extent of my sacrifices for his success led to deeper appreciation for family relationships and elder contributions, though his financial adjustment process was challenging as he learned to live within his actual earned income rather than the enhanced lifestyle that had been supported by my anonymous financial assistants. The long-term implications of the financial revelation extended beyond immediate family dynamics to Tyler's understanding of success and merit, as he realized that his achievements had been supported by family resources that he had been unaware of, though his educational accomplishments and career development had been based on legitimate effort and ability. Tyler's professional development continued successfully as he adjusted to financial independence, though his lifestyle changes and budget constraints provided valuable lessons about financial responsibility and the real costs of independent adult living that many of his peers had learned earlier through student loan obligations and financial struggles. The resolution of our family conflict through the revelation of my financial support provided a model for addressing disrespect and family problems through patient planning and strategic disclosure, rather than immediate confrontation, demonstrating that elderly family members might have more influence and resources than younger relatives assume based on superficial assessments of power and relevance. Today, 18 months after Tyler's public humiliation and the subsequent revelation of my financial support, our family relationships have developed into patterns of genuine appreciation and respect, with Tyler's behavior showing sustained improvement that appears to be evolving into authentic recognition of my value as a family member rather than just fear-motivated politeness. Tyler's continued professional success has been maintained through his own competence and improved character awareness, while his family behavior has demonstrated that people can develop genuine appreciation for family sacrifices when they understand the broader context of support and the personal costs that relatives have accepted to ensure their success and opportunities. The experience has strengthened my relationships with other family members, while teaching important lessons about respect for elderly relatives and the complex financial dynamics that can exist between generations, creating educational opportunities for younger family members about gratitude, sacrifice, and the importance of treating all family members with dignity regardless of perceived power or contemporary relevance. If you like this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left.